morning and welcome. Today is Monday, May 11th, 2020. This is a special meeting and workshop of the Board of Education. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start tonight with our workshop presentations. We have quite a few presentations here we'd like to get through, and then we will go on to our business of the board, at which time if the board members would like to make comments, they may. We normally don't during a special meeting, but feel free. Nothing is normal these days, so we can really do as we feel, chime in at any time. And we're going to start. Good evening, Ms. Goodman. We're going to start with our first presentation, middle school, high school restructuring plan.
Thank you. I'm going to share my presentation. Hold on a second. Great. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, board members, parents, community members, and colleagues. By promoting cohesion in our secondary school experience while still maintaining a middle school and high school, we are better positioned to nurture the habits of lifelong learners. Combining the middle school and high school under unified leadership demonstrates our commitment to contemporary teaching and learning, crafting individual learning plans that follow our students from 6th grade to 12th grade, as well as comprehensive and responsive interventions. This unification of leaderships allows us to infuse student learning with community service opportunities such as mentorships. In regard to curriculum, the structure will support the implementation of innovation and rigorous science, technology, and engineering lessons as we shift to the next generation science standards. We can offer more opportunities for acceleration in mathematics and individualized reading supports. With increased coordination of special education and 504s, we can meet the needs of all our students. I want to make clear before I get started that there is still a middle school and a high school, and what we're looking towards is shared leadership across the schools as we have in the elementary school, the same number of grades. In considering how to respond to the COVID-19 crisis and ensure we are preparing every student for excellence, we return to our mission. I just spoke about curricular and social emotional impact, and I will throughout this presentation, but also financial impact. Now that we know our buildings will remain closed for the remainder of the school year, it is important that we think creatively of how to move forward. We also need to think about where the country is going with technology taking a forefront and what our students need as responsible citizens in this world. These bullet points form the heart of our strategic thinking and problem solving. They have guided us in looking outside the box for the best possible solution for our learners. This is from John Dewey, and it's the blend of traditional and progressive, building on our strengths to ensure we prepare students for what the future holds. We are challenged to always think differently. This cohesive model is a bold step forward in preparing our students for excellence in this fast-paced technological world in which we live. There are many benefits for students in this model. It benefits students' academic success and social and emotional wellness. By having, I gotta move you guys, you're kind of blocking my screen. Comprehensive and flexible plans for students grades 6 through 12. There's an emphasis on flexible. Plans will be responsive to the development of learners. Just the way we watch students throughout elementary school, we will watch our students closely. Students can themselves set flexible goals that can be supported through the entire secondary experience. We can monitor our students throughout their time in secondary school. Again, middle school is middle school, high school is high school, but we're looking at the student comprehensively across these years. There would be closer collaboration with teachers and support staff in grades 6 through 12. Since we're a small school, we are primed to be able to do this. And actually, it would give our teachers more support speaking to others in their field. There would be less of a transition shock as students go from middle school to high school because they will be prepared. And the high school would be much more rigorous because the students would be ready for that type of change. And this program, doing this, maintains small class size, which is what we want to do in this district. I understand that from the board and from the parents. It provides fiscal responsibility and sustainability, and it decreases administrative costs while keeping teachers in the classroom for the students. Okay, why is it? Additionally, we are bringing together the best of both schools, ensuring students have equally powerful middle and high school experiences with rigor and relevance of a curriculum, and also not abandoning the middle school or watering down the high school, but fusing together the best of both worlds, incorporating the strengths of the middle school movement and capitalizing on the success of our high school, which has been rewarded a recognition school in the last 2 years, and supporting the continued success of our 6th through 8th graders. Moving to a more cohesive model allows us to look again at shared vision, resources, and leadership. We are not vying for what we have in our district. We are working together so that the resources are equitably shared and put where they need to be to certain grades and certain students. Better coordination of resources not only is fiscally responsible, but it also targets students' needs. Again, representing fiscal responsibility and sustainability, we reduce the cost as evidenced by the reduction in the salary of an administrator. And we share resources, again, through social emotional learning, shared through 6 through 12, leveraging a professional learning with professional learning communities for our teachers grades 6 through 12. The following slides will examine the pillars of our strategic plan and how this cohesive model will support us in these efforts. The pillars of the strategic plan guided our review of resources and structures. In order to get to the heart of preparing every student for excellence, we need to focus on these 4 pillars. In terms of social emotional learning, we would have better coordination of our supports, more effective use and implementation of our social emotional program, which we're using Ruler. It would be a more cost-effective investment as teachers would be trained once across from 6 through 12, and they would use the same language as students grow through the program. And there would be less turnkey training and more cohesion in supports. There'd be more opportunities for advisory and block scheduling, and also, again, following the arc of our students. There would be increased opportunities to connect students across grades. Again, students will be eating lunch with their grade. They will be considered middle school and high school, but there will be times to build in student ambassadors and student mentors and different models and leadership activities. We would build off our staff expertise in different developmental areas to create a more responsive continuum of supports. Increased supports that comes from students throughout their adolescence. Again, long-term, individualized, flexible planning for students to foster them from middle school through their secondary experience. Coordination of guidance and counseling services, and research that supports fewer transitional anxiety because students will be ready for the leap to high school. In terms of contemporary teaching and learning, integration of college, career, and citizenship skills beginning at 6th grade and mapped out through graduation. The nature of the habits of a lifelong learner. We want our students to learn to be independent from 6th grade on. They need to start to learn those skills. This model offers more opportunity for interdisciplinary teaching and an integrated curriculum. Projects that build on previous years, and students can present culminating projects to panels of high school and middle school teachers if we ever go to the IB model. We can also focus more on the diverse needs of learners, and that's all learners. So students who need rigor and relevance in their courses, they will have more opportunity to start AP and honors courses earlier, and we could make sure more students are doing that. We could build important skills like literacy across content areas, develop critical thinking skills, and look at the development of how it starts in 6th grade through 12th grade. Teaching students how to learn together, which is a lifelong skill. And because we focus on building students' abilities to think, write, and communicate logically and analytically, our students can enter high school and college with a foundation forged through the collaboration of middle school through high school resources. More comprehensive and responsive intervention plans will ensure that all students make the developmental shifts. Just back to that other slide for a second. We also, again, looking at the higher learner or all learners. New York State, we could start making sure that students have more access to advanced classes by making sure that requirements are met earlier. There are some schools where students meet their Regents requirement by 10th grade. And some of our students are able to do that and can have more APs in 11th and 12th grade, not only to get into more higher level colleges, but to get that paid for in this environment. If we get high school credit, that's less college courses that parents will have to pay for. Again, professional learning for our teachers, we're a very small school, and for teachers to have the opportunity to work across subject area and see what happens in 6th grade and how that leads up to 12th grade on a regular basis. And again, thinking how students think and learn and increasing that collaboration so we have cohesiveness in curriculum planning, mapping, assessment, and execution. One of the questions that came in talked about who are the people and who are the point people in this program. So there would be a secondary principal who would oversee the 6th through 12th grade. That school has less students than Cottle altogether, and you'll see that in the budget presentation. That principal would run the whole school. And it would be, again, like John Marash does in his school that has about 40 more students. We already have, and that would be Dr. Lenahan. We have an assistant principal, Scott DeBellis, who supports the vision and the mission and the day-to-day functioning of the school. Now, having the same amount of staff, but instead we would have another assistant principal, a principal of student life, of student support services. This person would prepare students to make a difference in terms of really organized extracurricular activities, athletics, of course, and also community service. This person also would work with the DASA reports and making sure that the school is safe and caring, work on any of the social issues, which not just happen in middle school, it also happens in high school. Make sure students are getting their 504 accommodation, their special ed accommodations, working on safety and security with our security guards, and also the extracurricular again and the athletics. I have spoken to the person who's the interim athletic director to see, can this really be done? Can we combine this if it's the right person? And he assures me that it can be done. He thought it was actually a great idea. So I believe that, and I know that this can be done. And again, it's the same amount of administrators. in the school as before. But there's also something else to look forward to as we move to this model. One of the wonderful things that we have at this district, which I will be talking about in my budget presentation, is the teacher mentors. Right now we have technology mentors, and they are doing an amazing, amazing work with our teachers. We could have other teacher leaders going forward who will also serve in a mentoring type of capacity, who will do inside staff development. We don't need to go outside for everything. And we can promote those people, and they can share their skills with others while still teaching in their classes, like the model we have now. That's something we can do down the road, and that really excites many teachers, giving them the opportunity. And people learn best from each other. And again, we have a director of curriculum instruction and technology. And we certainly thank our assistant superintendent for all the work that she's done over the years. The new person coming in is a middle school person, and you'll hear about him later tonight. So he will also have a very strong presence as we move to this model in the middle school. You know, I see making this eventually an international baccalaureate program or a more rigorous curriculum supporting our students and having very targeted interventions for students that need extra help, but also the innovative implementation of technology. With our technology mentors and then the director of curriculum and instruction, we have a wonderful innovation lab in the elementary school. We'll look down the road at doing that in the middle school, high school. But this will also be a high-level person, leader, with the teacher leaders and the two assistant principals and the principals to really bring our middle school and our high school that are already great schools to even higher levels. Because again, as I said, it's not business as usual because technology and the world is moving so quickly. Regardless of COVID-19 and the issues we'll have, we have to look through to the future and see how Tuckahoe can be a competitive school district and get ahead of the curve of what students need. What do we want our middle schoolers to do? So I keep talking about rigor, but that's not really important as developing independence, because that's what you need for 21st century skills. We have to teach our kids throughout 6th to 12th grade, because this is what, you know, I counsel some high school kids going to college, and I really see where they lack is independent strategies, study skills, doing things for themselves, really knowing how to read, comprehend, and write, being able to reach higher level courses even when they get to college, even if they do well in school, and how to keep kids engaged and motivated. So kids need to find those ways. They need to develop their skills that they need for 21st century. Middle school is different than when we went to middle school, and I went to middle school. But independence is something that many kids really need to learn early on, because you want to get them ready to develop student agency. And agency is really when a person can take care of themselves. When they, first of all, learn how to learn, they know what they want, and they're out to get it. They don't need us to help them. By the time they leave 12th grade, they have a direction, and they're ready to, they don't have to know what they're going to do, but they're excited about learning. And we do this with a challenging curriculum, giving students leadership opportunities, a lot of leadership opportunities through extracurriculars, sports, mentoring, and community service. Excellence for all. Again, this is not just for a few kids or for the kids that are achieving necessarily at high levels when they come to 6th grade. We need to look at all those 6th graders, and we need to know that they're eventually 12th graders, and they can get to the highest levels. And we do this through growth and innovation in our program. Again, it's a structural change just in terms of leadership. The students are housed in the same building, but they are still separate. There's no idea or want to mix up 12th graders with 6th graders or 10th graders with 7th graders, only if it's a very planned mentoring activity. And that would be not an everyday type of thing if it was something with a club or a community service. But mainly, it will be separate, but with leadership that looks forward to college and career and citizenship, which is our goal. We would support students' journey through more high-level advanced courses by getting them early and making sure that we make the coursework relevant, understandable, and important. The groundwork is here to support a successful implementation of our strategic plan, which is really the next step, because we really just have the pillars now. Middle school. We would still have a middle school. We will maintain the philosophy and honor the learner profile of a middle school student. We will get a clearer picture of the end goal and expected benchmarks in every grade. In high school, there would be a softer transition to higher level courses. The sports supports are grounded in interventions from earlier grades. We could see where the gaps are. You know, math is hard for kids. What is missing? How do we get them to the next level? When if they're having problems in one grade, look back to what happened in the other grades. And from either cohorts or even individual students. And again, more access for all to higher advanced placement courses. This would help the district, and we're a small district, and we have a very small middle school right now, 268 students. We can bring it together with the high school and have a more cohesive, unified program where we're globally thinking about how we're going to get our students to be responsible, lifelong learners and ready for their next level when they graduate from us. That's it. So I'm going to unshare this screen and, okay, I think I did that right. Okay, so any questions?
Ms. Goodman, if you could just take a moment to accept the request that you start using your video, please.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. There you go.
Here I am.
You are.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Any questions? And I have some questions from the public that I can read too.
Why don't you start with the public, Ms. Goodman?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, so let me see where we are. I have lots of different devices going at once so that I can handle all the things that are going on. Oh, that's the budget question. Hold on, I have to go to the restructuring. Here we go. So Joseph Kern, and lots of these questions I do believe I answered in the presentation, but he rightly asked, how will you ensure high school students get the necessary guidance attention required as they prepare for college if there is one shared principal? The district, first of all, and one of the things we need to do with our strategic plan is to create performance targets and initiatives to ensure success in each area. Secondly, with this plan, because we are not cutting teachers, we will have great teachers and a coherent curriculum, grades 6 through 12. As we move the middle school kids on, challenging academics, and the curriculum will not be a surprise to the students. They will be used to engaging in critical thinking, and they will have developed the study habits that they need in middle school. We are working on students thinking logically in high school, and for them to develop agency to reach their goals. The quality of the curriculum would improve as a result of the increased interaction among teachers of different levels. The teachers will get to know what students need and collaborate 6 through 12. Our new configuration will be built on a model with students completing New York State Regents by the end of 10th or 11th grades. To increase the number of students in rigorous classes, we would look at the middle school academic programs and see where they may be lacking and how we can offer more. And then for students who are struggling that we see in 6th grade, we will have intensive intervention so that by the time they get to 8th grade, 9th grade, first of all, we will know them. They will have learned strategies that they can take with them throughout high school and into college, because it won't be different language. We will be using the same language, just enhancing the skills. That was Joseph Kern's question. Tara Zager says, please describe a description of the job descriptions for each administrator in the proposed model, which was in the plan, in the presentation. She also asks, the secondary school restructuring does not have, I'm making sure this is hers. Okay, please advise which positions will be staffed from current personnel who, and which will need to be posted. If they are to be posted, and given the present uncertainties about the date timing of a budget vote and possibility of further delays in order that the budget may not immediately pass, is it realistic to have these positions staffed in time for fall opening? Okay, so first of all, the secondary school does not require any new staffing positions. It calls for the elimination of a full-time administrator and the school secretary. The athletic director does become the student service assistant principal and the athletic director, which is very possible and easy in a school of this size. Larger schools have a full-time athletic director. Is there a plan B in the event the positions cannot all be timely filled? That's a good question. So if we do not find the assistant principal for student services and athletics, we do have an interim in now who I'm sure would be interested and provide continuity, I'm pretty sure, but we would try to get that position. Similarly, is a question from Tara Zager, what will the secretarial support positions look like in the proposed model? So the principal for the middle school and the principal for the high school would stay, which would give still a middle school secretary, and there would be a high school secretary under the direction of the principals and the assistant principals. There would be the elimination of the currently assigned secretary to the assistant principal who does attendance, which is now done more online. It doesn't need a full-time person to it. That's changed over time because of technology. And she is the assistant to the athletic director, but in the past that was done by a stipend, and I believe that there would be people interested in that. Then Ms. E. Mahoney asks, questions about the director of curriculum. Who is in that position? What are the duties of the position? The pay cut slide you presented is the first I heard of this position, and I thought it was an assistant superintendent was in charge of curriculum and IT. What are the duties of the assistant superintendent? They keep changing. It was first 504 plans, and lots of questions about the assistant superintendent. So the assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction and technology has resigned from the position, and we do thank her for all her work. I mean, a lot of what I will present in our points of pride is really because of the work she's done. And the position, because we are such a small school, is being downgraded and to a director. We don't need as many assistant superintendents in a district this size. You know, we had a lot done under our assistant superintendent, but this is a director who can come in, again, working on the same areas as the assistant superintendent and still providing all the resources that we need. Again, this person is a middle school person and has worked in the high school, so he would give that kind of support that is needed there. So there is not an assistant superintendent and a director. There is just a director. So I hope I made that clear, because I know that might have been confusing in previous, I think we've had about 4 budget presentations. So I do appreciate the questions because I think they do add clarity. So those are the questions on restructuring the schools. There were a couple of others that came in earlier, but they were all answered in the slideshow. Again, I think those were good questions. Anybody else have any questions?
Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a few, couple of questions and comments, if you don't mind. First of all, the presentation was excellent. A lot of the questions and thoughts that I had coming into this meeting were answered by your presentation. So this is going to be a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be. So I appreciate that. It was very good. I know you mentioned that the student population has about 40 students less between the middle school and high school than the elementary school does. I get that. What about staffing, though, in terms of teacher staffs? Is it, and I mean, I should know the answer to this already, but I admit I don't. Middle school, high school teachers, the amount of teachers that we have versus the amount of teachers in Cottle. What is the ratio there? Is it pretty similar or is it more?
No, I would have to really look at it. I think there's a slide in the presentation of the budget that does show that. I could ask the principals right now because they're here, but I can let you know. I don't want to say that off the cuff. Of
Right.
course, middle school and high school teachers teach differently.
Right.
They do have more preps than the elementary school. So what's hard for them is there's a lot of singletons because there's so many subjects. So it's kind of lonely, or there's just a couple of them.
Well, the reason why I asked the question.
But working across the curriculum, across the grades, I think will be very exciting for them.
No, the reason why I asked that question is that it's easy to understand why a student ratio, why this makes sense, and why one principal should be able to handle that amount of students. But one of the main jobs of a principal, obviously, is to manage, evaluate, and oversee teachers. So the reason why I asked the question is that although we may have less students, do we have more teachers that need to be evaluated, need to be oversaw between the middle school, high school than we do in Cottle? And is one principal going to be able to handle that responsibility of doing all those in-class evaluations and sitting in on the classes? Is this going to be too much of a load for one principal to do in middle school?
So because there is an extra assistant principal, that load can be taken by that person.
Right.
Also, the assistant, me as the superintendent, I would do some of them. And the director of curriculum also can do some of them. I really want to focus on the secondary school for the next few years. I think that, I'm a little disturbed that some people leave our district to go to private schools. I think that we can, not a lot, but I think that we can do the best job pretty much. I think we can be one of the best schools in Westchester easily. But I think that we really need to focus. Some of the reasons we don't rank so high on things like U.S. News and World Report, when we really look at it, is because we don't offer as many AP classes. And it's not all about that, because again, I would still rather kids to come out as good kids and be able to learn. So those goals also, those social, emotional, and taking care of yourself goals are also a part of it. Cottle has an incredible amount of staff. I would have to say, just like thinking of being at staff meetings between their special education, their aides and TAs and all that teachers, I would think it's very similar in staffing.
Yeah, I think that's right, too. I think that's correct. I just figured I'd ask the questions. We're always looking at it from the student population perspective, but what about the staff viewpoint? But I think that they are pretty comparable. And you also addressed it by saying that it would be a team effort, basically. You would use the assistant principals yourself to kind of, pick up whatever slack.
And the director of curriculum, too.
Right, correct. Okay, and then, the big thing for me is just, making, but you addressed it in your presentation, but, the social, emotional, just being able to differentiate the stage in which our children are at between grade 6 and 12, right? Because there's a big difference between a 6th grader and a 12th grader. And, I get the whole curriculum coherence. That makes total sense. Having a 6 through 12 academic strategy makes total sense to me. But, just making sure that we are going to tailor that social and emotional support for the different stages that kids go through 6 through 12. But you kind of addressed that in your presentation, and that's.
And that's a great question. And of course, the middle school student is very different than the high school student. And we are very aware of that. And in fact, we'll infuse more of that for everybody to understand that with our new director of curriculum, who is expert in that. But I also think that whatever social emotional curriculum we use, and for those of you who saw Rethink, even though we took it out of the budget, I am trying to get a grant for it. One of the things I learned, and I was on a social emotional panel this summer with school superintendents, is that the more you use common language and the more you teach skills at different levels for students to modulate their emotions, the more they understand that, they grow with that. So even though a middle school student might be different, there is social skills and there's self-modulation skills that they need to learn, even organizational skills, and they build on each other. So we don't treat middle school students like little high school students, because they're not, but we can start teaching them the life skills so that they can function socially, emotionally in the community and in their lives. And those skills really they do loop.
Yeah. Okay. So if, when you say in your presentation, and I think I understand this, but I want to make sure I'm clear, a couple of times you say this will give us, the students, more opportunities. So what do you mean by that? I think what you mean by that is just reallocating resources, and also having a coherent strategy so that kids are further along. Is that what you mean by more opportunities, or do you mean actual more resources?
So I do mean exactly what you said, and resources also. So when you look at something and you're sharing resources, just like Mr. Marash and Mr. Kilgallen do in the elementary school, they're looking at what grades, what cohorts need what, and they're very focused on it. And not that when you are separate, you don't do that to an extent, but I've been an administrator, you're still very much watching out for your little group. And because we're that small, we can't allocate resources better. And the fact that there could be a kid, not that I want to mix the grades, but let's say we have 8th grade algebra and a 9th grade algebra class. It could give us more opportunity to do that, possibly. I'm not saying we would regularly do that. And every once in a while, we have a very gifted kid that may be ready for something else. Or we have a group of kids that would do better in the social skills group, and we can allocate our resources differently in terms of what we're doing in our schools. Again, it is allocating resources also has to do with looking at your administrative staff. And a lot of times people look directly at teachers, and they don't look at, sometimes we're a little top heavy. And again, if we didn't have this, I think it's, number one, I did it for educational reasons. I think that I can definitely say that even before the world got to the way it was, I was already thinking and talking about it, because I saw it as an opportunity for our school district in particular, because we're that small. And we have some not wasted, everybody did a wonderful job, but we can use our resources differently. And the other thing is, I really hope and do not want to cut teachers. In fact, the high school has large class sizes, and in the budget you'll see soon, it will help the class sizes in the high school, because that is something that I know as a teacher makes a difference. Small class sizes, and if you were a student, it makes a difference.
Right. So I think what you're saying is that this shouldn't be looked at on its face. It may be looked at as taking something away. But what you're really saying is that we're not taking anything away from middle schoolers. We're taking away a position that has a salary and reallocating that money towards other resources that are just going to hopefully make that experience better. So it's not a loss of resources. If anything, it's a gain of resources.
And
just
remember,
reallocation of it.
Exactly, and you end up with the same amount of administrators that we had.
Right. Yep.
Just using people differently and getting the most out of people while still maintaining programs and class size and enhancing them.
Okay. Well, I love the comment you made in the beginning about, thinking differently. That quote you used, I've seen before. It's a great quote, because I really believe in that. I don't think we should do things just because it's been done like that. It's always been done that way. I think we should always be looking differently. And although maybe a lot of schools don't have this model, not many schools are as small as we are. So we have the opportunity to do it. So
yeah, let Tuckahoe be on the forefront. We will do great things.
Yep. Okay. That's all I have right now. If others have some questions, maybe I'll think of something else, but that's all I had right now.
Okay. Thank you, Pete. Anyone else on the board have comments or questions for Amy?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple.
Okay, Therese.
Does anybody else want to go?
I
No.
do too, but we use my
Well,
first.
Pete kind of took a lot of the questions,
Sorry.
but that's no, that's all right. I'm glad
There must be coffee in that mug.
You gotta be faster on the
we
buzzer.
got the answers.
You gotta be faster on the buzzer. Price is right.
Go ahead.
You can go, Laura.
Okay. So thank you, Amy. That was very helpful. Can everyone hear me okay? I switched to a new. Can you hear me, Amy? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm curious about, so we have the same amount of administrators. And just before I ask my question, I'm excited to hear about mentorship and programs, SEL, advisory, block scheduling, all those things that having children in the middle school and understanding what that means is exciting, because I think that the student life is something that is to be worked on, as far as volunteering, outreaching, being part of their community, having clubs and things that I think, just from my experience, has been lacking. I mean, we've definitely done some, but I think when you look at private schools and what they do versus what we can offer, we can do everything they do. There's not, and so we, listen, people go to private school, they go to private school, but if we can rise to that level, we should. So I think that's exciting, and the IB program too. So my question is, if I'm a parent and I want to, so I don't have that contact person now that I'm familiar with, or I don't have those emails that I'm familiar with, but there's the same amount of administrators, is there a way that you'll communicate or sort of spell out to parents who their go-to is? In other words, that chain of command now. I think that people are a little, change is always tricky for people, and they might be, wondering, well, what does this look like, and who can I talk to now? So when we know we have Mr. DeBellis, and we'll have that other person, but how does that look for the upcoming year?
I think that's a great question, and there will be, one of the things that's really important to me is that the communication is good, and that this becomes very spelled out, so people will know who to go to. First of all, I really think that one of the things we really need to work on is that the first stop is the teacher, and the teacher. We believe in our teachers, and they should be the ones that are handling the issues. To have different people sitting when a parent has an issue is just, it takes away from our teachers, I think, and it kind of it's a lot for some parents also. So I think the first thing to go to is the teacher. After that, the positions, if you have a student who's struggling, special needs, 504 is something that we really have to concentrate on. Sports, athletics, social skills, you'd go to the student life assistant principal. The day-to-day operations would be the other assistant principal. And if it got kicked up to a higher level for any student, you would go to the principal. But it really should be lots of things should happen at the teacher. The other thing that we would have is a lot more instructional support team meetings where we're really talking about students and their issues. So bringing parents in early if there is an issue. But we need to be a school that, and we are, but that really believes that our teachers can deal with a lot of the issues. Only having 267 kids in the middle school and, having 300 something kids in the high school, when I look at Cottle, and elementary parents are the most involved usually in most schools, and they keep them busy, but there's 2 administrators there and lots of teachers. I believe with 3 administrators, I know that we can do this in the middle school, high school. I mean, we have right now 6 grades in elementary school. We will have the same amount of grades in the middle school, high school with a principal and 3 administrators, still more administrators than in the elementary school. So again, they don't go, oh, it's a 2nd grade kid, who do I go to? They go to the principal. So when it gets to that point, go to the principal, but try to go through the process. And then the director of curriculum may come in if it's something that has to do with, it's gotten to a point where your child's really struggling academically and you haven't had the answers, or sometimes the superintendent.
Thank you.
And there would be a lot of communication. I think that's another thing that we just need to make sure that there's communication. And again, like what you say with student life, that there's more, we do so many great things, like we didn't get to play, but when you see in the concerts, but when you see more of that and more celebrations, I think that people start to know everybody and come in, and they're just a part of the community.
Thank you.
Therese?
Yes. Okay, thank you. I just have actually a couple of comments, only because I do have the benefit of having been a student in the district and now a parent in the district. And I think that in listening to people in the community for years, some of our biggest criticisms have been that we're too top heavy for the size of our school and that we're not offering enough extracurricular. And when we look at our college acceptance rates, it's funny because I tuned out for a while, but I tuned back in 2012 when I bought a house here, and I am the class of 92. When I was in school, it was 7th through 12th. We had every year Ivies on the acceptance list for colleges. It was Yale, it was Princeton, it was Dartmouth, and in the years that I've been paying attention most recently, we don't have that. And I think that that's something that Ms. Goodman has also looked at critically and said, well, why don't we have that? Because we have the most amazing students and kids who are super bright and scoring perfectly on their SATs. So why are Ivies not taking them? And I think that's something we have to really look at critically in the fact that we don't have certain things offered that we should. I was a student that was done with my Regents in 10th grade, and that gave me opportunity, and I didn't get into an Ivy, just so we're all clear. I was a little bit of an underachiever, and a little too social and chatty, but I guess I could have, right, because my classmates went to Yale, and so there was a possibility. But the point is that I was in the debate team, and there were other things that we could have at Tuckahoe, and then we were even smaller than we are now, to round out our students, to make them that candidate that gets accepted into the Ivy League school. And we did have the department chairs, and I do think that does bring a certain continuity. The only other comments I wanted to make while we were sitting here talking about the divide between middle and high school, if we really look at our students now, there already is an overlap. We have sports that include grades 7 through 9th. So why can't an 8th grader sit in an algebra class with the 9th grader and learn in that room? Because they can, and I did. So I do think that this is going to be a really great thing for Tuckahoe, and I do know that change can be somewhat scary to people, and this is a scary time for everybody, period. But I find it invigorating, and I'm excited, and I think most of all, we have the right leadership in place. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Thanks,
I think that's it.
Cynthia, did you have anything you wanted to add?
So most of my questions were answered. I mean, Pete talked about the observations of administration, but I guess that's clear that they're going to sort of collaborate and take on that goal together, which is great. And Therese, I'm glad you brought up about having some 7th graders with 9th graders, because I thought what a great opportunity, like with pooling the resources, that it might provide more chances for middle schoolers to have better opportunities with electives. Like I was thinking that, and yes, to sit in class, why can't they? If a 8th grade is taking algebra, why not sit with a 9th grader in an algebra class? And it gives more flexibility in scheduling, that they can have more opportunities to take different things. So I'm excited about it. I know it's going to be a big task for all involved, but I feel like Therese said, with the leadership in place that we have, I'm like really excited about what it holds.
Okay, thanks. I also just have a couple of comments. One, when Ms. Goodman started the presentation, she used the word bold, and I do really believe it is a very bold plan. A lot of time obviously has been put into the details. I thought the presentation was very comprehensive, and there's a lot of information there. I do want to encourage any parents who still might have any concerns, even after the presentation, to continue to reach out and to be in touch with Ms. Goodman and ask any questions that you may still have, or any concerns or something that may not have been covered in this presentation. So please let us know. We as a board several times have said things like, we are so small, how do we not mold each child? how are we not being able to spend more attention and more focus on each individual student given our size? And I think that this plan lays out an opportunity to take our smallness and use it to our advantage. And I think it really is the best way to mold each student to their full potential, no matter what that might be. It really is in line with our strategic plan, especially with diverse learning and how we can best do that. And I, having been on this board for several years, have never been presented as a board member with a plan that is so detailed and really so specific, driven into student success. So it's things that we have been asking for, looking for. It's a bold way to get there, but the old plan didn't get us there. So I think that, as Pete said, it is a way of thinking outside the box. It is a way of taking advantage of the fact that Ms. Gooden was able to come in and with a fresh eye and take a look at what is working and what is not working and how we can make change to best serve our student population. Again, it's bold and I can see where there could be concerns, but I am confident that it's a plan that under Ms. Goodman's leadership will be successful. So I am excited about it. Okay.
I have one follow-up question. I'm sorry, I know we want to move on. We have a lot to cover, but I just have one follow-up. Professional development, Ms. Goodman, do middle school teachers and high school teachers get different types of professional development training? And if so, how would that change now? Would it still be separate types of training geared to what levels they teach, or do you see it being more of a coherent strategy there as well?
I see it to be both, because I think it's important that middle school teachers, you know, that we're very lucky because we have in place staff development during the week that's already built into the schedule. We have extended days. So sometimes they do get together as a faculty, whole school faculty, a whole building faculty. Sometimes it's separate, but it's not as targeted as it will be with this. So if you're an English teacher or math teacher in sixth grade, it's really important that you spend time with all the other teachers to see where we are going and even learn from each other. So there'd be more vertical than there is now, but there would still be the interdisciplinary. Because again, with project-based learning, let's say you want social studies and English and math and science to come up with a project. So it is both.
Oh, okay.
But it's also important, if you think about your kid, like there's something so nice about elementary school is that they know who your kid is. You know, when they're planning, they know this kid for 6 years. And they don't pigeonhole them either. I've seen kids like change miraculously in the time, and we're also proud of them. But also we get to know the parents too, and we get to work more cohesively, for that, to use that word again, with the whole team. And I can see kids making goals also. So yes, it would, but also teachers too. And I'm really looking forward as we go on to start developing teacher leaders. We have some really special teachers there that can work horizontally and can model and work closely with our teachers. So that's just another plan that can come out of this. You can't really do that in such a small school to have chairs and things like that, but you can do it when it's larger.
Yeah.
When it's a larger group of teachers.
No, that's good. Thank you very much. And you know, the population of our student body is growing little by little, but you know, it's growing somewhat, but I think at a fairly reduced rate. Is there a number in your mind where the amount of middle schoolers we have grows to a point where this no longer makes any sense? And I would imagine if there is a number in your mind, we're probably far from it.
Yeah, we're far from that number.
Yeah.
Right now, but you know, I hope everybody moves to Tuckahoe and you know, people stay in the school, and you never know. We could be someday building, you know, another building. So who knows? But
you don't see that. You don't see that being a short.
I don't see that when I look, and you'll see in the other slide. You know, our enrollment's been flat for a long time. It went up, and now it's kind of flat, and that's in the budget slide. So it doesn't look like we're going there.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
you know, if we do, you know, and that's why everything is fluid. I see this as a long-term plan for right now.
Right. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to move on now to the presentation on the capital project. We as a board have been very anxious to see inside the school and see what it looks like. So we are going to get a chance to do that.
Okay, so Mr. Marash has put together a presentation for us, and I've asked that he does that tonight. It's his school, and he did this presentation single-handedly. We made sure that you could see what we wanted you to see without giving a full layout of the school for security purposes, but you're going to be very excited to see what he put together. So Dr. McDonald will share the screen and get the presentation going.
Mr. Marsh, I believe you've got it, correct?
I do. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you? Good to see you.
How
Hello,
are
Ms.
you,
Lou.
Mr.
Hi,
Moran?
Ms. Lou. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. Hang on.
Here comes the sun, doo doo doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, the smiles returning to the faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. 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 Sun, 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 here it Little darling, I feel that as they slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say it's alright. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It's alright. It's alright.
And that's the video.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right. So, again, as you all know, the New York State schools have closed through the end of the academic year. However, the renovations at Cottle, they kept going. And they continued. And it was great to have this opportunity tonight to sort of share what's been going on. And thank you to Marty Danko, especially. He took me on a walk through that second floor, and we got to take those great pictures, and Dr. McDonald was there with a backup video, which we almost needed. So thank you, Dr. McDonald, and of course, Ms. Goodman. Thank you to her, because she checked with Altaris, our security consultant, to make sure and confirm that showing these interior pictures of the school falls within their safety regulations and parameters and things like that. So, it was a great opportunity to share what's going on. And, when you see these wonderful additions to Cottle School and imagine the new educational opportunities that will open up for our students, I hope you feel the same way I do, which is that much better and brighter days lay ahead for our Cottle Cubs. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thanks, John.
It was really good to see. We did actually get an opportunity to walk through, but it was several months ago, before the finishings were put in, before like the floors and everything. One thing that you could see was coming through and came through very, very well in your presentation, was how airy and open and how well the lighting is, both from the lighting and the fixtures and the natural light that's incorporated into the architecture. That's what struck me when we walked through, and that really came through in your presentation. There really is a lot of great natural light that comes in, and then the lighting itself is great too. So it's really just a nice, warm feeling. So,
yeah, very bright and very beautiful. Absolutely.
It's very spacious too. It's very open and spacious. So.
Yeah.
I do have one question regarding the innovation lab. Is that going to be used for all students, or is that specific for certain grades, or will the students, third, fourth grade, will they come to that classroom as a special? How will that work?
So right now, our plan for next year is to maintain STEAM as a 2nd through 5th grade special.
Mm-hmm.
But Ms. Canaparo has had opportunities this year where she pushed into the K1 classes to also conduct STEAM classes. It's just not built into their schedule, but there will be opportunities for the K and 1 students to get up to that STEAM, that innovation lab, and have some opportunity in there. But it will be built in, continue to be built in as a 2nd through 5th grade special.
Awesome. And then when do you expect the furniture, Ms. Marash? When does that come? That's coming pretty soon, right? Or I think it's already around.
I believe it is, but I think Dr. McDonald could probably answer that one better than I.
Yeah, the furniture is being delivered on May 27th is when it's being installed.
Great. Awesome.
That's very exciting.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
Is the security vestibule totally done, Mr. Marash?
So I believe the security vestibule still has some fine tuning, is what I will say. In terms of the level of detail that still needs to be completed, I would leave that to Marty Danko to reply to. But I've been in the security vestibule, and again, it also looks very beautiful. And what an addition in safety for our students to have visitors enter that building through that security vestibule.
Huge upgrade, tremendous upgrade.
Tremendous upgrade. It's outstanding. I didn't include that in the video. I wasn't sure. We had only discussed the 2nd floor, so I didn't want to include those snapshots and go back to Altaris in that time. But I think
that one, folks can just walk by and see pretty easily.
Yeah, no, I've been by to see it.
Yeah, the 2nd floor was obviously you can't see it from the outside, right. But if you walk by the building, you can get a good sense of how it looks, and it looks great. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything for Mr. Marash?
Nope. Thank you.
It's very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
John.
Thank you. Stay safe and healthy, everybody.
Thank you. We enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, next we're going to move on to our budget presentation.
And Michelle, before we move on, can I just make a comment about the field, just in case people are asking?
Sure.
Yeah, so just, if everybody's thinking about what's going on with the field was reseeded, and the temporary fencing was taken away. And that's sort of where it stands right now. We're sort of in a holding pattern, I think, right now. And Lee, please jump in if I say anything incorrect, with what we're going to do next, because we still have that $400,000 or so set aside to do the original work on that field that was in the scope of the project. But we've collectively, when I say collectively, the board, the facilities committee, and I know just from talking to other folks in the community, we want to do more than the original scope, but it's going to require a little bit extra funding, and will require probably some more additional bond money, which wouldn't be, I don't think, all that much. But given where we are right now, with the current crisis. We just kind of need to wait on that and just see where that all goes. So I think we have to just kind of readdress it in a few months and see where we stand in terms of readdressing that. So I think the field will sort of be as it is. I mean, hopefully the grass will come back in the spring and get at least back to the condition it was in before the project, which I know wasn't a great condition, wasn't very good, but at least get back to there. And then hopefully in a few months we'll have better visibility of what the future lies for us, and then we can kind of make a better choice on what we want to do next with that field. And the way we left off with the facilities committee was we were going to have the architects sort of start doing some of that pre-bond work for getting more bond funds to do something more elaborate, so that we're ready to go when the time comes. And Lee, do you have any update on that? Have they done anything? KG&B, last time we spoke?
They have done, they've done some preliminary plans, which they presented at one board meeting a couple of months ago. And they've done some drawings and some investigation as to what's possible. They've looked into some of the regulatory requirements. And they're also looking into possibly presenting an incorporation of Siwanoy Boulevard, how that may work together with the field. So they've been doing they've already been working and doing some work as to take a look at that, so we can pick it up as soon as you're ready.
Yeah, I know, and one of the things on the agenda tonight is for us to approve that contract for that work, which
Right,
is
and a lot of which they've already done, and,
Right.
and they'll continue to do if you so deem that to be true.
Yeah, so for the community, just have a little patience with us on the field. We just want to make a smart, educated decision, and we just need a little more time in order to do that, to see where this whole crisis takes us. So just be patient with us, please. That's it.
Thank you, Pete, for the update. Okay, budget presentation.
Okay. Good evening, board members, colleagues, parents, and community members again. Tonight, we will be presenting the 2021 school budget. I've shown this slide in a few presentations. This budget, first of all, required a lot of hard decisions. But what we really looked at to start with is that it is clear that Tuckahoe has many points of pride that are measured by numbers of indicators, both qualitative and quantitative. This budget gives us the necessary resources to keep these programs. The board goals and strategic plan for student learning drives the budget. Again, we talked about this in the last presentation: diversities of learners, professional learning, contemporary teaching and learning, and social and emotional learning. The district goal is to inspire our community of learners to achieve educational excellence. Our mission is to ensure students work towards success, leading to higher education, work, and citizenship. We do this in this budget while ensuring fiscal responsibility and sustainability. Not only is the plan based on our goals and strategic plan, it is responsive to the COVID-19 crisis. The 2020-21 school financial year has a financial gap that not only affects this year, but it will affect the next couple of years. We were confronted with an unprecedented public health challenge with COVID-19, which affected our economy and our funding. Most importantly, the health and wellness of our stakeholders. And if you can see by the presentation, you can see that we lost a lot of state aid. And also, we are keenly aware that the economic environment of community members and families are affected or may be affected by what's happening with our economy and with this pandemic. Somebody asked the question about our numbers and our enrollment. As you can see, that we used to have UPK, but even without UPK, starting in 2016-17, our numbers went up, and then they have stayed fairly consistent. One of the things we look at when we look at enrollment is what is the number of students that we have in each school, and what is the administration that we have in our school. We need to look at this both educational and financially. When looked at side by side, the enrollment of staffing of our 3 schools highlights the opportunity for a better structure. At William E. Cottle Elementary School, with an enrollment of 610 students, we currently have 1 principal, 1 assistant principal, and 2 secretaries. Meanwhile, at the middle and high school, with a combined enrollment of 573 students, we currently have 2 principals, 1 assistant principal, an athletic director, and 4 secretaries. Here you can see it in another way, how it's combined and how it is so much, we have so much more staffing in terms of administration at the middle school, high school. Moving towards a model that's more equitable in focus, you can see that the middle school and high school enrollment, still less than the elementary school, would have the same amount of administrator, would have 1 more administrator actually, which is the assistant principal of student life. It's budget neutral because we took that from the athletic director, 3 secretaries, 1 shared principal, and 1 shared assistant principal and 1 shared principal. So the only thing that changed really is that there's 1 shared principal for the middle school and high school, but there's 1 extra assistant principal of student life and student services, and 1 less secretary who was doing attendance and athletics, but we will still keep the secretary to the other principal who can also work on that. And again, the athletics before has been with a stipend. These reductions of a principal is $175,000. The reduction of a secretary is $75,000. The athletic director is neutral. So it's a savings of $250,000 in administrative costs. Again, this configuration, I talked about in the last presentation, we're looking at career and citizenship, coherence, and fiscal responsibility and sustainability. We are preparing students for excellence, as we talked about before, higher achievement, small group instruction, interdisciplinary focus, and increased community service opportunities. We are also looking at the use of data-driven decision-making from 6th through 12th grade, both for individual students and for our program. Other fiscal responsibility reductions in costs, again, is all in administration. Again, as Michelle Licio said, we have been told we are top heavy. We are a small school. We switched the assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction and technology to a director, thus saving $40,000 for the district. Taking an assistant superintendent for business, she reduced her salary for $10,000. And restructuring the middle school and high school, again, is $175,000 and $75,000, with a total reduction in administrative costs for next year of $300,000. But there are also additions in the budget, and not that they cover the additions, but they help soften the blow of the additions. And again, when we originally came out with this budget, we didn't have the reductions. We just added because we thought we were getting all this state aid. And then not only did we not get the increased state aid, as most people get after costs go up year by year, we got a decrease, with the governor saying that he can decrease our aid again and again. So the middle school, we asked for a 0.6 reading teacher to make a 0.4 whole. And again, we're seeing that our students struggle with reading. A 0.2 in math, because that's another area where students struggle. In social studies, these additions, a 0.6 for social studies, 0.69. The reason is because labs are every other day in science, and a 0.6 in ELA. So we've had a lot of complaints about the large class size in the high school, and this will lower class size and be able to offer different smaller classes for students. District-wide, I talked about some compensatory services. We are figuring that out right now. We may need to also reconfigure somewhat for next year for more compensatory services. So we're hoping to help our students. Some of them have missed some very key times, and the principals are putting together the needs right now. Hopefully, it could be in person. I can't guarantee that. We don't know yet, but it could be in some way very targeted for small groups of kids, even if it has to be distance learning. Extracurriculars, we are committed to lacrosse, so we are keeping that in the schedule. We are committed to cheerleading. Our students in our community love cheerleading. And, we know that they belong to private cheerleading, but there's no reason why they can't cheerlead also for our district. And again, varsity girls lacrosse, we know that that's a great sport under Title IX. We want to make sure our girls are involved in as many sports as our boys are. We also have additions, so we want to keep very current in what our students need in the high school. We want to make sure our engineering class has been very well received. We want to make sure that we have updated books, ebooks, more so than anything, that we have a library for our students. So we're adding less in terms of curriculum instruction here, but more in terms of smaller class size for next year. In the middle school, we are, again, changing our versions of online books because they were very outdated, and we need to make sure that they focus on next generation standards. For the elementary school, though we're not adding staff, we are adding more curriculum. And one of the things I'm most excited about is the Foundations program. The Foundations program is a K-2 phonemic awareness program, which is very important because we have had students that struggle with reading, students that have not learned to read fluently by the time they're in third grade. And we want to make sure that our K-2 program is very tight because some kids, about 10, 12% of the kids don't read unless they're taught explicitly. Also, intervention and enrichment in terms of CODL, the iReady program will be expanded. And robotics goes with our new incredible innovation lab, which I really think will, again, put the district on the map. We have a great teacher for it, and we are going to do some great stuff. And the question of will be used for other students, I'm hoping to use it for also our after-school club at the middle high school. We are also looking at making sure that we have good supplies in for security, for infrastructure repair, for COVID-related cleaning supplies. That's all added to the budget. Our budget provides, again, systemic reading instruction, curriculum development and mapping, 6th through 12th, project-based learning, social emotional development, staff development and co-teaching, and in the multi-tiered systems of support. But though we are focused on this, less outsourcing, more inside staff development with teacher leaders and administrators, so saving some money on that. We are going to have to put some money to our technology. We always upgrade our devices in 6th and 9th grade, and the devices, again, I thank Dr. McDonald and people who put that into place 6 years ago because it made a big difference during this, this crisis. We were one of the schools that were able to start everything right away. We need to have, this is a requirement that we have compliant online software data privacy that will cost us money. And some of our interactive flat screens really aren't working anymore, so we need to replace them. Again, this budget really focuses on favorable class sizes, innovative teaching, supported opportunities for extracurriculars, Orton-Gillingham training for struggling reading, additional supports for reading, which is needing 6 through 8, a phonetically based reading program K-2, new curriculum materials tied to the next gen standards, staff development, professional learning and social and emotional development, and again, a commitment to fiscal responsibility. Again, this is what we're all about, is preparing every student for excellence in all of these pillars, and this budget supports that. And now I will read it to Lee Lu, who will go over the finances for this budget.
So Dr. McDonald, if you, okay, I think we're here. So I think I'm in control of the screen now. So as you see here, and this is as I've shown before, this hasn't changed. This is the district's allowable tax levy calculation, which, let's see. Don't know why that did that. There we go. So this is the calculation that we've done from the beginning of this year. We do this every year. These are provided by the Office of the State Controller, various factors that the district is allowed to use to figure out where it is and what it is allowed to levy by the taxpayers. We do have some exclusions and ins and outs for debt service and other things. When we take a look at what we are allowed to raise as our maximum allowable tax levy increase, the amount that we need a 50% voter approval to raise, we're allowed to raise our tax levy up to 3.4%, or $969,000 over the prior year. However, due to the current economic environment, as well as considerations for our taxpayers, what we did is, let's go back a slide. I'm wondering if I'm turning this the wrong way. I'm trying to get to the next slide, 27, which would be the revenue slide. Now it's expenditures.
Okay.
Somehow it keeps passing right through the revenues. Thank you, Dr. McDonald. Nope, it keeps jumping by. I can start here and try to go back, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'll take care of it. I'll get you to the slides you need.
Okay,
Here you go, 27.
great, thank you. So as you can see in the center column, that's the proposed budget for 2020-2021. And rather than raising our tax levy on the top line, that full $900,000, we have cut back on that tax levy increase, and we have only raised it 1.98% rather than the 3.4%, which we were allowed to raise it. So we are, even though we could go up to 3.4%, we're trying to keep that more affordable to the community, and we've left that at 1.98%. We've also seen about a 5.5% increase in our sales tax due to the increase last year in the Westchester sales tax percentage. Keeps wanting to switch. Can we go back? There we go. And even though I had earlier in the budget season, I had predicted a higher sales tax revenue based on what we were seeing this year, we've scaled that back quite a bit. And I hope it's still not too high for what we'll see next year. No one knows. We've scaled it back quite a bit, and we're hoping that that shows a more accurate reflection based on the increase of sales tax percentage that we got this year for the county. We also have increased slightly our, about 11%, our charges for other services, which are tuitions that we receive from out-of-district students, both regular education and special education. We've taken a good hard look at how many students we have currently, how many are graduating, and we feel that's a good reflection, while still being a bit conservative if things do change, for what we'll see in revenues on that area. Other revenues are interest expense, interest income, and charges for rentals and things. Again, we've increased that based on what we're seeing, but we have cut back our initial estimates because of our concerns about the economy next year. But I still think that's a relatively good estimate, and we're leaving it in as shown. And then, as you can see, we've cut back total state and federal aid by $150,000 or 5%. The foundation aid is actually cut back higher, but we do have some increases in expense-driven aids. So overall, we're seeing about a 5% reduction we're estimating for state aid, and that's only a best guess at this time. We're waiting to see what the state will provide us with as they start to look at their indicators going forward, and whether or not there's additional federal aid that may come in to the state that they will apportion out throughout the districts. But again, that is, I think, a conservative estimate. It could go lower. We'll have to wait and see. And we do have concerns that it could go lower, and we'll have to gauge that very carefully. There are different periods during the year where the state will take a look again at their revenues and could lower our aid, and we'll watch that as those occur. So if we go to the next slide, there we are, the expenditure budget. On the expenditure side, we are looking at some modest increases in general support services. in the district. We're going up about $150,000 there. Instruction is going up with all the new staff we're adding, as well as contractual expenses, about 5%. Transportation, we're expecting a larger increase because of unknown expenses that we may incur for different transportation for next year, as well as increases for CPI and gasoline if that goes up again next year. That is what we're looking at. And we've also seen an increase in transportation costs for special education and private school students. Employee benefits, we're seeing some small reductions there based on our estimates for different staffing and the rates that we're seeing for next year. And debt service is going down temporarily next year because of some debt that's being paid off. We'll be filling into that area again in the future as we start to go into long-term bonding for our capital project, but we'll already have some of that financing in place. We'll just be rolling that over into longer term bonding as we go forward. And as we start to pay back the principal, that will go up in future years. And then we do have some interfund transfers that we have between our capital funds and some other funds that we provide throughout the year. So our grand total expenditures that we're projecting for next year would be $36,423,200. And that's a budget to budget increase from last year to this year of 2.65%. So if we look at that number, $36,423,200, that's our baseline expenditure budget. That was from the last slide carried forward. The next line is the baseline revenue budget from 2 slides ago of $34,293,590. If you take the difference between the two, you'll see we have a budget gap of about $2,000,001. And again, that budget gap typically occurs when we look at our budget because we are being conservative about our revenues and expenditures, but we do have, by law, have to create a balanced budget. So we do have to balance those numbers. There are several ways we could close that budget gap. We could hope for additional state aid, but again, we do not expect any more state aid at this time. We could look to reduce our expenses and cut program, cut staff, cut any other expenses, but we have cut those expenses quite significantly over the last couple of months, and there's none planned for at this time. We could increase the tax levy, although we are now estimating we want to use a 1.98% increase in the tax levy. So if we leave that be, we are going to close that budget gap using our savings accounts or our fund balance. And we would use our regular general savings account and appropriate $2,129,610 if necessary, up to that amount, and that will balance the budget. If we take a look at the history of the tax levy and the budget, we can see on the left, we see how the tax levy has increased over the years with a 6-year average of 1.67%. So what we can say is on average over the last 6 years, we've been well under the 2% tax cap. If we look at the budget to budget increases, you can see they fluctuate year to year, but overall, our 6-year average on budget to budget increases is 2.38%. Graphically, the same information is shown as follows. The red line is the percent change in the budget year over year. The yellow bar is the tax levy percent change year over year. And what you see carried over on the top, on the line, the green line, is the enrollment year to year. So as you can see, when our budget to budget changes were relatively modest, our enrollment was growing quite rapidly until about the year 2017, 2018. And then we reached a point where our budget to budget changes started to catch up to that enrollment growth. And now we're bringing those down again as our enrollment growth has flattened out. So some important dates to remember today is our budget adoption. The Board of Ed will adopt a budget tonight. On May 26th is the projected date for the budget public hearing by the Board of Education. That's a required hearing prior to the vote. Right now, we understand that our vote will be absentee ballot only, and it will take place on June 9th. Now, it won't take place per se. Ballots will have to be returned And the district clerk, Lauren Truhl, will give more information to the community upcoming as to how that will take place. And again, June 9th is the date that the budget vote will be finalized. And again, there'll be 2 Board of Education seats available for a 3-year term. And we remind everyone now to mail in your vote this year. And that completes the budget presentation.
Would you like me to do the questions from the public first, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a few questions. The first one is from Allison McCormick. What is the plan for the Cottle Field? And then Pete already answered that. The plan for the Cottle Field is to repair it this spring, smooth out the surface, repair the infield, and reseed. Long-term, the Facilities Committee will next consider an integrated plan for the field and Siwanoy Boulevard. There are funds budgeted annually for general maintenance of the field. There are also funds remaining in the capital project that are earmarked to renovate the field with natural grass. Beth Silvestri asked, is there any part of the budget which has been allocated for the completion of the Cottle Field? And yes, the Facilities Committee is considering it. The board will consider other things for a possibly new capital project, such as artificial turf. I know there was a presentation a few meetings ago from our architect. Given the current climate, this is also from Beth Silvestri, and absences experiencing this past school year due to various illnesses, are there funds in the budget allocated for deep routine cleaning of the buildings? And yes, there are funds budgeted to perform enhanced cleaning of the building. Electrostatic sprayers were ordered in February and will be deployed regularly as soon as we see them. Marty Danko is working with custodial staff to update cleaning routines, to clean buildings per the recommendations of the CDC and other health organizations. Yes, we put some more funds to that, and we will continue to look at what the CDC recommends. It's going to be interesting as we look at how we reopen the schools. I've been watching a lot of videos on this in other states and countries, and we will look at how we will do it here. Susan Warness says we are not clear how the cost savings of $250,000 will allow us to hire 3 additional good teachers. That sounds like a low budget to hire good teachers. Also in the past, having 1 administrator double as our athletic director did not work. There was no vision for athletics. In general, explain why you need to cut $250,000 when our taxes were recently raised. And again, in the budget today, we talked about the state funding had changed. It was cut. First, we thought we were, so if you watch all the budget presentations, you will see the trajectory of what we recommended before we knew that schools were closed and that the COVID-19 virus would be a pandemic. And as we looked at the changes in both our state aid and also the changes in what might happen to people in the community, we decided to make these cuts. When we asked in the survey a few months back what the most important factor was in hiring a new superintendent, our answer was someone with a vision for the middle and high school. Cutting budget and consolidating was what we expected for the vision for the future. It sounds very reactionary and will have long-term negative impacts. And I believe that my presentation talked about the positive impacts that this will have and how it will bring Tuckahoe to the next level. My presentation outlines a 6 to 12 focus where we can work in each child to meet their needs. We are focusing this budget again on decreasing class size in the high school and across the district and putting more supports in the middle school and a coherent plan. Our goal is to teach students to think critically and independently and how to inquire with care and logic. We prepare students to succeed in a world where facts and fiction merge in news, and where asking the right questions is a crucial skill that will allow them to flourish long after they left our schools. We want to make this to be a very intensive curriculum from 6th to 12th grade. Kevin Warness, same family, why do we need a superintendent when they move or run out every 2 years? I would rather see us hire a CFO and eliminate the superintendent position before we cut first-line principals who interact with students daily. The plan Ms. Goodman has outlined is vague with unidentified or uncommunicated risk. that is best of the 30 candidates. What's the urgency for the Board of Ed? 250 on a $3 million budget is pocket change, and this proposal during the crisis makes no sense. And his wife, Ms. Warnes, then says, I have not heard of it. Okay, let me answer his first. Mr. Warnes, first of all, it's a $300,000 cut on the budget with all the administrative cuts. And you can't have a CFO, you need to have a superintendent. It's required of every school district. Ms. Warnes then says, I have not heard of any middle school and high school students out there that had an issue with continuity between middle and high school. I've not heard of any students having issues transitioning from middle school to high school. I don't understand why this is suddenly coming up as an issue that needs to be addressed. Overall, our obvious issues such as lack of extracurriculars and athletic opportunities for our high schools compared to other schools offered. Why is this something that the board feels needs to be immediately addressed given the current chaos going on that the students are facing? So, first of all, what we're working on is bringing our schools to the next level. Looking at some of the data, such as U.S. News and World Report and the recent Westchester Magazine ranking of our schools, though we are great schools, we still have work to do. And we need to make sure that we are focused on bringing our students to a higher level. Amy Connolly says, what is the remaining fund balance if we use the proposed 2.1 million? That's a question for Lee.
I'm sorry.
While she's looking for that answer, I'll answer another question. I can answer another question from Susan Warnes. Did we just hear that as taxpayers, we pay for transportation for special education students coming from other districts? Please explain. No, we don't pay for special education students coming from out of district. Their district pays for it. They pay us to come to our district. Thank you.
What I did mention, though, is that we are paying for transporting our special education students to whatever placement is appropriate for them.
That's there. So the way the question was answered, do we pay for special education students coming from other districts?
I see it. Okay.
No.
Of
course, our responsibility is only to our students.
I don't have in front of me the exact number of the fund balance. I don't have that presentation in front of me. I can say that I can put that number up on the web tomorrow, get those numbers up. That was in the previous presentation. You can take a look at the fund balance and the projections, and you can see where we're projected to be at the end of the year, and then you can see what we might have to use if we had to use the entire 2.1 million. And I'll put that up on the website tomorrow.
And I'd like to say I want to thank the board for giving us the time to present this. And if any parents have any questions, I Zoomed with a family today. If one group one group of parents, husband and wife, I believe, seem to have a lot of questions, I am willing to meet with them to further explain what I explained tonight. Thank you.
If I could just add, I believe that the statement, I don't know if it was a question. Yeah, it was a question, actually. I'm sorry. I wrote it down here. Why does the board feel this needs to be addressed at this time? And I just wanted to let the community know that this is the superintendent's proposed budget. This is being presented to the board for the board's approval, but this is not the board suggestion or initiative. It's what's being presented after close analysis from Ms. Goodman as to what she feels is the best strategy to bring the district forward at this time under these financial constraints and in a very uncertain economic climate going forward. So that's I just want to straighten the record on that.
Yeah, actually, I was going to make the same point, but I did have another question in regards to the budget. I was going to say the same thing. It's not our role to come up with this. We just are put forward the budget and we are asked to vote and approve on it. But I had a question in regards to Ms. Goodman, for the secretaries, I just wanted to, so that I'm clear on understanding it. In Cottle, I know that you mentioned that there are 2 secretaries, and in the middle school, high school, with the proposal, it'll be 3. What is it that the secretaries in Cottle, what exactly is their role, and what is the roles of the ones in the middle school, high school?
Okay, so well, John's here. He can answer the secretaries in the elementary school. I want to be presumptuous. Mr. Morash?
Is he there still?
I think he is.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I do see him. I mean, I know for middle school, high school, I heard one was the principal, the secretary to the principal, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yeah, so
sorry.
the two secretaries, one is secretary to the principal, and the other one is basically the secretary of the building.
Okay, got it.
Those are the 2 titles for the most part.
Yeah. So then what about middle school, high school, the proposal for the 3 that'll be there? What will that look like?
So the middle school is now, there's a secretary to guidance that will stay. There's a secretary to the middle school principal. She will stay because she will be the secretary to the middle school and work with the principal. There's a secretary for the high school principal. She'll stay too and have the high school parents or whatever comes up. And then the athletic secretary, assistant principal secretary is the one that would be cut. And the athletic stipend would go back to a secretary, which it was before.
Okay. Got it. Okay. That's it. I just wanted to know.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board regarding budget presentation or questions about the budget?
I don't have any questions about the budget. I just one piece of housekeeping. Lee, the last slide on your presentation, you spoke about how June 9th is the vote for the trustees and for the budget, but also on the ballot is going to be the proposal for a capital fund creation, correct? That's also on the ballot.
That's right.
Can you speak about that just so when folks get the ballot in the mail, they understand a little more about what that is and what we're asking for there?
Of course. So what we did is earlier this spring, the board approved a proposal and a resolution to create a reserve for capital, a capital reserve. And the purpose of that reserve could be funded over a period of, excuse me, over a period of 10 years to fund capital improvements within the district. So this would be funded only by board approval of any monies from surplus. There could be monies from the budget earmarked specifically for this reserve fund. We have none in this budget this year. So there is no budget impact of creating this reserve fund this year. But it allows the board to put excess funds that may occur over subsequent years into a reserve fund and can be used to offset the cost of a capital project.
And I believe the language says we can put up to $5 million in there. Is that what the language says?
Right, over a period of 10 years, and then it expires. The board could extend it after 10 years if they so choose to do so, or they could put that monies back into other funds, reserve funds, or back to the public.
So just to be clear, that vote, that item on the ballot is not asking. You're not being asked to approve $5 million going into a fund. You're being asked to set up the fund.
Right, with a maximum amount of $5 million, but that's correct. We are not asking to put $5 million into that fund.
Just want to make sure
there's no budget impact for this year at all.
Right. Just wanted folks to be clear on that. When you see that, you don't get scared by that $5 million like we're asking for $5 million. We're just asking to set up the fund.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? We have had the presentation a couple of times now, and I know that it's been quite a task working on the budget this year with everything that's going on. So we thank you for that and appreciate that. Are there any other questions? Anybody? No. Okay. Thank you, Lee. Okay, we are now going to move on to business of the board. Number 1, appointed Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology. Be it resolved that Christopher Keogh, who holds a certificate as school district leader be appointed to the probationary position of the Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology in the tenure area of Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology for a 3-year probationary period commencing July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2023. Is there a motion? Cynthia, second. Peter, discussion? Amy, did you want to discuss?
Yes, I am recommending Christopher Keogh to the position of Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology. Mr. Keogh's knowledge and experience in curriculum and instruction and technology set him apart during a rigorous interview process. During Mr. Keogh's tenure as assistant principal in the Farragut Middle School in Hastings-on-the-Hudson, he has taken a leadership role in all matters curriculum. According to the middle school principal, they did not have a curriculum director remain in the districts for a regular time, and this has resulted in the need for the building leaders to take responsibility for curriculum. And in the middle school, while she maintained responsibility for the school, he took on all the tasks of curriculum planning. Due to his expertise, they improved their curriculum and instruction greatly. They really got to be a very well-known school. The high school principal says the same thing about Mr. Keogh, and also that he worked K-12. Mr. Keogh's relationship building has ensured successful partnerships in all areas of the school and district administration. He has coordinated closely with high school and elementary school staff and principals. At the heart of these planning sessions is Mr. Keogh's deep understanding of curriculum, state requirements, contemporary teaching, and professional learning. As a systems thinker, Mr. Keogh can see steps ahead of the process and is responsible to challenges that present them. He also is very adept in technology, makerspace, robotic kits, laser cutters, 3D printers, and infusing them into the curriculum and the next generation standards. He is very child-centered and organized, and he also is very well thought out intervention plans for students. And then when it comes to technology, that's really what sets him apart in platforms like project-based learning. He sees the whole child as evidenced by his stewardship of social and emotional programs such as Ruler, PBIS, Second Step. He's led many workshops, and he's very, very well liked from the district. And with his interview with us, and we gave him a presentation that all the candidates had to do based on some data and information, his was very straightforward, very well thought out, very professional, and showed that he cares about rigorous, engaging, and high quality education for all students. I recommend him without hesitation. And I know you got to meet him in executive session, so.
Yes, we did. The board did get to meet him. It was very exciting. Definitely a lot of energy and innovation, and we really look forward to what he has to bring to the district, and fits really well with the direction that the district is moving. Does anyone else on the board have a comment?
That was said well. I concur.
Yeah, he was very impressive.
All in favor? All in favor?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And welcome, Christopher, and good luck to you. Okay, number 2, accept a resignation. Resolve to accept the resignation of Lindsay Rose Musgrave as treasurer effective June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Therese, second. Peter, discussion? All in favor? Number 3, appoint a treasurer. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby appoints Faith Sparks to the position of treasurer to serve at the pleasure of the board for the 2020-21 school year at the annual rate of $135,000, approves the statement of terms and conditions of employment dated May 11, 2020, and authorizes payment thereunder. Is there a motion? Peter, second. Laura, Discussion? Amy?
Sure. Well, Faith also has come to us with, first of all, a lot of experience in finance. I'm going to let Lee, who knows her more intimately, to talk about our recommendation.
Yeah, so I worked with Faith when I first came to the district for 3 years. She's an excellent, outstanding treasurer. She worked with 2 of my predecessors before that, who also she's highly regarded by them as well. She's a CPA. She's very knowledgeable. She knows our district very well. She brings experience, knowledge, and she'll bring stability to the business office. She has incredible skills. She's very organized, meticulous. She has a high degree of integrity, and I think she'll be an excellent addition to welcome back to the district, and I highly recommend her for the position.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. We'd like to welcome back Faith back to the district. I'm happy and excited to have her return to us. Any questions or comments from anyone else on the board? All in favor? Cynthia, where's Cynthia? Let me see Cynthia.
I'm here.
You can't see her because she keeps raising her hand and you're not acknowledging her.
Did you raise your
I
hand?
know. I feel like you're ignoring me. I keep raising my hand.
You are, Cynthia.
You can't
Thank
see me? Can you see me?
Well, I can see you now, but that's why I was
You could?
checking to make sure you raise hands. Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering why you were ignoring me.
Okay, let's see where we are. Number 4, approve an external auditor. Whereas the Tuckahoe Union Free School District sought proposals for an external auditor to audit its financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, with the option of performing similar services for each of the 4 subsequent fiscal years. And whereas the proposals received were opened on March 10th, 2020, and now therefore be it resolved based upon a review of the proposals received, the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby appoints Bonadio and Co. LLP, having an office at 488 Madison Avenue, New York, New York, as the school district's external auditor for purposes of auditing the financial statements of the school district fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020 for a lump sum fee of $32,500, plus a fee of $2,500 for each single audit if required, and the school district shall have the option to extend the contract for each of the 4 subsequent fiscal years at a lump sum of $32,500 plus a fee of $2,500 for each additional single audit if required for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021 at a lump sum of $34,000 plus a fee of $3,000 for each additional single audit if required for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022 at a lump sum of $34,000 plus a fee of $3,000. I feel like I'm repeating myself, so forgive me if I'm.
That's correct. It's 2 years the same.
Okay, thank you. $34,000 plus a fee of $3,000 for each single audit if required for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023 at a lump sum of $35,000 plus a fee of $3,500 for each single audit if required for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the board president to execute a contract with Bonadio and Co. LLP to serve as the school district's external auditor as above described. And be it further resolved that the superintendent of schools and assistant superintendent for business are authorized and empowered to take all necessary or appropriate actions in order to further the purpose of this resolution and comply with the awarded contract. Is there a motion? Cynthia, second. Laura.
Discussion?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. As I have told the board and to tell the public, the district is required every 5 years to go out for a request for proposal for audit services. This year was our 5th year with our current auditor, O'Connor Davies, and the district requested proposals. We received 3 proposals. We had an interview committee of Laura Benke, Lindsay Rose, and myself, who interviewed the prospective auditors via Zoom in this environment. One of the key things that we had to consider were how capable the auditor would be for doing remote auditing as well as regular auditing. We felt all three firms were capable, but the district did decide to go with a new auditor this year. We felt any of the auditors could have done an excellent job, but the recommendation is to go with Bonadio.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any comments from the board? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, number 5, approve a modified transportation agreement. Resolve to approve a modified transportation agreement with Academy Bus Company through June 30th, 2020 with an option to renew at lower of 1.5% or CPI. Is there a motion? Peter, second. Therese, discussion.
Due to the closure of schools as of March 11th, we have been negotiating and speaking with Academy Bus Services as to how to proceed. We have the expectation that we would cover their expenses while they were providing us bus transportation in the event that we reopened. We wanted to continue to extend the contract into September if we were able to do so and reopen in September. We reached an agreement to reduce their monthly rate or their per bus rate at a rate of 60% reduction. We felt that would be fair to the bus company to keep their buses in shape and their regulatory requirements met, as well as to provide for services to restart as soon as possible. And they also agreed to guarantee us that they would be willing to renew their contract in September at CPI, at the lower of CPI or 1.5%, so that we could start up a bus contract in September without interruption. And also going forward, we do have in the agreement that if there were to be another closure going forward, the same reduction in rate would occur next year as well.
Thank you, Lee. All in favor? Okay, number 6, approve a request for variance. Whereas the regulations of the Commissioner of Education at 8 NYCRR 100.2A provide that upon the submission of evidence that there are circumstances which do not justify the assignment of a principal to a particular school, or that another mode of building administration would be more effective, the Commissioner may approve an alternative mode of building administration. And whereas it has been recommended that the Tuckahoe Middle School and Tuckahoe High School, which occupy a single building, be led by a single building principal. And whereas such recommendation serves the best interests of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District to improve student learning outcomes in the pursuit of excellence in education. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the request for a variance pursuant to 8 NYCRR 102A, and be it further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools is hereby authorized and empowered to take all actions necessary to implement the purposes of this resolution. Is there a motion? Second, Laura, discussion.
So this variance, what would happen if for some reason it wasn't? So we adopt this variance and then it has to be approved by New York State Ed, correct? How long does that take usually? And what would happen if they didn't approve the variance?
So I have heard that it's a very fast-paced, not hard approval to get, and it's seems to be through our Southern Westchester BOCES as New York State, so I can be in contact with the district superintendent there.
Okay.
I mean, there's a chance that it wouldn't be approved, and then we would have to go and adjust the budget in a different way, maybe cut teachers. Hopefully it will be approved. I think that I wrote a very comprehensive reasoning for it. So I believe it'll Approved.
You know, I did a little reading on that rule, and I don't think we're gonna have a problem. I was just curious as to what happens, you know.
I talked to a couple of people to see how hard it is to do it. I actually did it in another school district. It wasn't hard, but I just wanted to make sure. And I spoke to a couple of attorneys, our attorney. It's not supposed to be hard to do, but it has to be approved by the board. That's first hurdle.
Right, okay.
All in favor? I'm sorry, Therese, I can't see you. Therese, all in favor? Yes, thank you. Okay. Number 7, adopt the budget. Resolve, the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District does hereby adopt the proposed budget for the 2020-21 school year in the amount of $36,423,200, and that this proposed budget will be voted on by the qualified voters of the school district in accordance with Executive Order Number 202.26 of the Governor of New York State. Is there a motion? Therese, second. Cynthia, discussion?
I think we pretty much discussed it already, so.
We discussed the budget at length. Okay. All in favor? I'm sorry, Therese?
Yes, in favor.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, number 8, approve a legal notice. Resolve to adopt the attached legal notice. Is there a motion? Peter, second. Therese, discussion? I'm sorry, Amy or Lee, I don't have the notice. Is it, oh, it's regarding the budget. Is that correct?
So it's
Right,
just the legal notice that we placed for the budget.
Legal, thank you, Lauren. Okay, Lauren just chimed in to let us know that it's the official legal notice that must go out for the budget, and which is actually one of the reasons why it is so important that we adopt the budget this evening, because given this new time frame that the governor has given us of a June 9th vote, it really has condensed and we really have to speed up this entire process, and there is a lot to do, and we want to make sure that we are timely and we do it all accurately. And so this is one of the purposes of adopting and the importance of adopting this evening. Okay. Motion to adopt the attached legal notice. All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Number 9, approve pre-bond services. Resolve to approve the KG&D pre-bond services proposal dated February 17th, 2020 at a cost of $7,500.
Michelle, I think you skipped number 9, actually.
No, I didn't, Pete. It's a repeat of the modified transportation budget.
Got it.
Contract, I'm sorry.
No, I see. Yeah, it was 5 and 9 in the original. Okay, my bad. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
KG&D.
Yeah, is there a motion? A KG&D contract. Peter, second. Laura, discussion.
As we talked about earlier, this is for the work that they are doing to prepare for a possible next capital project.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question? So I know that the facilities committee has met and has discussed, and there's a consensus that we would like to do more there, which I am actually in agreement with. But what do we know what we could do for $400,000? Has KG&D given us, specific plan for that?
We do have a scope that was in the original capital project, which provided for a natural grass field with irrigation and some straightening out of the lines. And that was what was in there. That was bid as an alternate. We did not award that bid. we don't know what it would cost if we awarded it now or went out to rebid it.
Right. Okay. All in favor? Okay. And number 10, adjourn special meeting. Is there a motion? Therese, second Peter. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, so we are adjourned now. We will meet again for our budget hearing, which will be on May 26th. Again, please, anyone in the community has any questions, we have gone over many very important topics this evening regarding the budget presentation, and any concerns that are still out there, please do not hesitate to contact Ms. Goodman or the board with any questions. Thank you, good evening, and stay safe. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Right.